The first principle is that of solidarity. We are part of the same monetary area, so we therefore have the same interests, the same objectives, and the same obligations. And the second principle is that of responsibility. We are responsible for a currency. This currency doesn't belong to a particular country, it belongs to the whole of the Eurozone. So efforts must be made by all of us for this currency to have the required stability in order to be respected, which is the case today. We also use the word respect. The word respect comes spontaneously to mind. Respect, first of all, for the result of the election in Greece. The Greek people voted quite clearly and decisively, and the Greek people wanted to signal that austerity as the only prospect was no longer bearable. But there is also respect for European rules, which are binding on everybody, on France as well, and it's not always easy. And then there's respect for commitments made, notably regarding debts which today concern sovereign states. So here we must take into account all these elements in order to define a methodology and objectives. The method is dialogue. Greece, as the Prime Minister has repeatedly said, that it is part of Europe. Greece has said that it wishes to stay in the Eurozone, where it has its place. And Greece has expressed its determination to give Europe the necessary cohesion. So the dialogue must be engaged, must take place. A dialogue between Greece and its European and international partners. This dialogue must be strengthened, must be intensified, but it must take place in a spirit of transparency, serenity, with the determination to achieve an agreement. That is the objective. It is to find an agreement, that is to say, a medium and long-term mechanism, a medium and long-term agreement beyond what we have to do in the short term. We need to define an economic and financial contract between Europe and Greece, and France has said that it is willing to consider this, and we will show, as we have shown in recent days. But between Greece and France, we don't only have obligations which arise from our membership of the Eurozone. We have a relationship based on trust, and we reminded Prime Minister Tsipras that we are willing to participate in a bilateral cooperation to provide Greece with expertise and advice to achieve certain reforms, notably fiscal reforms. Our tax authorities, we're experts in taxation, in administering the reform of the state. We have learned lessons from others. We can also share our own experience in these areas. And we have also invited French companies, who already do so, to continue investing in Greece, because there are opportunities to be seized in Greece. There are opportunities which will create jobs and growth, which will benefit both of our countries. We also must use all the resources of the Juncker plan, notably regarding projects concerning the environment. France will be hosting the climate summit at the end of the year. In the fields of energy and transport, we have a lot of projects in common. France and Greece, between France and Greece, as I've already said, there is a well-established friendship, a shared conception of culture, knowledge, and we must also work in that direction. We must multiply agreements between university centers, between research centers, and also on a cultural level. Greek culture has had a considerable influence on the whole of Europe, and French culture also has the same aim. France and Greece believe that culture is a factor of progress and of development and even of growth. So that is on that basis that we have decided to establish our relationship, to develop our relationship between France and Greece, between the Greek Prime Minister and the French President. Thank you.
Ευχαριστώ, κύριε Πρόεδρε. Είμαι ιδιαίτερα χαρούμενος που βρίσκομαι σήμερα στη χώρα που πήρε από την Ελλάδα το νήμα της δημοκρατίας και με την επανάσταση των συνειδήσεων και των δικαιωμάτων, με τη Γαλλική Επανάσταση, προσδιορίσε τις αρχές και τις αξίες της σύγχρονης δημοκρατίας. Είμαι επίσης ιδιαίτερα χαρούμενος διότι βρίσκομαι σήμερα στη χώρα του διαφωτισμού, αναζητώντας την πολιτική κληρονομιά του διαφωτισμού στη σύγχρονη Ευρώπη. Σε μια Ευρώπη όπου ο οικονομικός παραλογισμός έχει δυστυχώς επιβληθεί στον ορθό λόγο, σε μια Ευρώπη όπου δυστυχώς η κοινή λογική έχει παραχωρήσει τη θέση της στην ιδεολειψία. Σε αυτή την Ευρώπη και σε αυτό το κρίσιμο σταυροδρόμι οφείλουμε να ενώσουμε τις δυνάμεις μας.
La France, la République française, est vraiment un facteur
of stabilization and of stability in Europe. And I believe that the stability of the European Union assumes a change of policy, requires a change of policy. We are at a turning point. We need to turn more to growth. We need more growth. We need a new agreement for Europe. We need a new agreement for a return to growth, for strengthening employment and social cohesion. And with regard to this effort, we need above all France, which must play a major role as a guarantor within the European Union. France must play a leading role in this change of policy. My country, on the 25th of January, courageously made the decision to turn the page. The new government has received a clear mandate from the people, a mandate for restoring social cohesion and growth. The new government will work in favor of social regeneration. We are looking for a new agreement. We have a program which is realistic, which will be applied with our European partners. We want to engage in a dialogue with our European partners. We're not a threat for Europe. Political change in Europe may be an opportunity for Europe. The European Union is our common home, and we must all work in compliance with the rules of the European Union. European coexistence whilst respecting the right of each country to be treated on an equal footing, to work together within the EU. And we don't have owners on one side and tenants on the other. We all coexist, and we must all work very hard for our common future, our common European future. Yesterday and today, during my contacts with the leaders of European member states and with other very important personalities representing European institutions, I presented our realistic proposals, which we hope will produce a viable result, an agreement which will give us more time and a breathing space to the Greek government, which needs to implement necessary reforms, to make necessary changes, which we must implement for our country to be credible, to restore our credibility, and to come back to social justice. The Greek people have suffered a lot recently. They've made a lot of sacrifices. But some Greeks have not contributed to these efforts. So we must continue our efforts to fight against tax evasion, tax fraud, and to come back to a state which is no longer based on cronyism. We must, at the same time, overcome the crisis, the damage that the crisis has created. So we have proposed realistic solutions which should be mutually acceptable, solutions also to the problem of our debt. Our debt must be sustainable, must become sustainable. We must discuss this issue. Our common future is European. We must stop being in a self-perpetuating crisis. I am convinced that our partners want to listen to us, and I'm convinced also that we can all work together to overcome the crisis in Greece and at the same time help Europe as well to overcome the crisis. Thank you very much.